after last month's mayoral election, it's now down to two. Lori Lightfoot and Toni Preckwinkle, they're headed to a runoff on April 2nd. And with us now is mayoral hopeful Lori Lightfoot. Welcome back to the show.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So dive in. Let's just get into it. What changes can we immediately expect if you're going to be elected mayor?
Well, I think fundamentally we have to change the way in which government responds to the needs of people in the city. One of the first things I'm going to do is introduce a fairly broad ethics ordinance. You know, people are sick and tired of the broken machine. They're sick and tired of the corruption. And we have to speak to that need, I think, immediately and demonstrate that it's going to be a new day in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. And it's now down to 2 black women for Chicago mayor. How does that feel?
You know, it feels amazing, I have to say. Coming where I come from, which was from a low-wage, working-class family, where my parents struggled every day to really put food on the table and keep us in our home, to be at this place is pretty amazing.
There's been tense exchanges, as would expect, with two people in the midst of a runoff between you and Toni. What are some of the biggest fundamental differences that you see between the two of you?
Well, I am an independent reform candidate. I haven't spent my career decades kind of climbing up a broken machine ladder as she has. She's amassed a tremendous amount of power. But I think, frankly, what people want to know is, what's our vision for the future? What are we going to do to really positively affect the lives of people all over the city? So I'm going to continue emphasizing those things, which I do think separate us from each other.
Toni Preckwinkle, she's attacking your amount of experience in elected office, and you just mentioned the decades that you've spent in the private sector, the public sector, just doing other jobs, doing different things like that. What would be your response to people who feel you do not have enough experience?
Well, I'd say take a closer look. I helped run the Chicago Police Department, the city's 911 center, and the city's procurement function. I'm a senior equity partner at one of the largest law firms in the world, advising CEOs and other C-suite executives. So I have a broad depth of experience, both in the public sector and the private sector, that I know has prepared me to be the mayor of this great city. In addition, in the last few years, I've taken on one of the toughest issues of our time, which is reforming our police department and making it much more accountable to the citizens. The officers are sworn to serve and protect. So I think that body of work, if you will, gives me all the experience and judgment that I need to be able to take on the tough challenges in the city.
And you brought up the police department. You know, we've got a problem with officers committing suicide. I wanted to ask you, what kind of mental health support do you think that officers and just the people of Chicago in general need?
Well, look, it's a terrible thing that's happening. And frankly, I'd recommend an editorial in the Chicago Tribune that was written by the head of NAMI Chicago, which is a mental health support organization. We have to make sure that officers who experience a high degree of trauma every single day have the wellness resources that they need. This is something that we advocated 3 years ago as part of the Police Accountability Task Force. It's built into the consent decree. But we need those resources online right away so that our officers understand they're not alone, and frankly that it's okay not to be okay. And beyond that, we know that people in neighborhoods are suffering a level of trauma that's akin to veterans having gone through multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've got to rebuild the social safety net with a very specific mental health and trauma component so that people can get help in their neighborhoods. That is something that I'm very focused on, and we will put that in place as part of a Lightfoot administration.
Lori, sticking with the police force, if elected, what would your intention be in terms of handling the role of Eddie Johnson as Chicago Police Superintendent? Also, you look at Janice Jackson, the CPS CEO. If elected, what were their roles? Would they be maintained as where they are now? Would there be changes there?
Well, what I've said about Eddie Johnson, if I'm fortunate enough to become mayor, the mayor doesn't get sworn in until late May. Way before that time, the police department obviously has to continue with this primary mission of serving and protecting. They also have to start the implementation of the consent decree. And by mid-May, we're talking about being right in the middle of the summer violence season. So I think it's inappropriate to really talk about making Eddie Johnson a lame duck and his executive team when they got all these important functions to do leading into a change in the new mayor. So after the summer is over, I will have a sit down with Superintendent Johnson to really understand where he is, where I am, to make sure that we're on the same page regarding a range of different issues, and frankly, the same thing with Janice Jackson. I'm mindful of the fact that CPS has had 5 different CEOs in the last 7 years. You can't be successful when you have that much volatility and instability at the top. So I think the same thing has to happen with Janice Jackson. We'll sit down, we'll have lengthy discussions about where she is, where she sees the vision, and make sure that that matches up with my own if I'm fortunate enough to become the next mayor of this great city.
Thank you for asking that. So here at the gym, we're a different kind of show.
Yes, I know.
She's noticed, right?
Yes,
I know.
she was like, please don't ask me to dance. We're not going to ask you to dance, but we do have some rapid fire questions because we want to kind of get to know you in
Sure.
a little bit different of a way. So we're going to put 1 minute on the clock. We're going to ask you these rapid fire questions. Don't think too hard about it. We just want to see who is Lori Lightfoot.
All right.
Are you ready?
I've got my seatbelt.
Strap in.
All right, let's do it. We got the clock? Okay, here we go. If you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm a sucker for hot dogs.
Oh, hot dogs. What's the first album you ever bought?
It was an early Jackson 5 album.
Oh, yes,
nice.
good one. Okay, favorite song you'll always sing to?
Todd Rundgren's Just One Victory.
Who would you play in a movie, Lori?
Ooh.
Who would play you, excuse me?
Who would play me? You know, I'd pick one of the women from the Black Panther movie. They're phenomenal.
That
Phenomenal.
was strong. I like that. Job you'd want if you weren't doing this?
Oh, I'd be a coach on the Bears for sure.
Hey, it's a good time to be one. When's the last time you cried?
You know what, I got to tell you, I've been thinking a lot about my father along this journey, and thinking about it, he's been dead now for almost 10 years, really brings me to tears every day.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. Do you have a nickname?
Foot.
Your favorite animal?
You know, I love dogs, but I also really love cats.
Okay. And do you know how to change the oil in your car?
No, I'm not going underneath the hood.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lori, for coming in and chatting
It's
with us.
my great pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Lori. And to find out more about Lori's platform at lightfoot4chicago.com, you can get all the information you need to be as informed as possible for a very important vote.